Hello, I'm Masaaki Imai, the chairman of the Kaizen Institute. And in this film on MUDA, I should like to take you to the journey of understanding MUDA and being able to practice it later. In the very beginning, I'm reminded of a story of one of our Kaizen consultants who was working through Gemba with the manager from the client company. And as he was explaining various non-value-adding activities going on, the manager said, "I have been working in this plant for over 20 years, but I never recognized all those things." He said, "I have been blind." And I hope that after going through this film, you begin to understand all types of MUDA, and when you go to your Gemba, you will be readily identify many types of MUDA and to improve the performance of your company. This concept of MUDA is very important in order to understand Kaizen and also Lean approach. Because my definition of Lean is that we employ the minimum resources for the maximum benefit. To employ minimum resources requires to eliminate all kinds of MUDA. When people are working, they are always engaged in two types of activities. One is adding value, and the other is not adding value. And when I say adding value, for those activities, your customers are prepared to pay money. But for any type of non-value adding activities, nobody will be paying for what you are doing. Well, this concept of MUDA was first initiated by Taiichi Ono, who has created the Toyota production system, or commonly known today as a lean production. And he came up with the 7 types of MUDA.
Throughout the film, the objective of Kaizen Institute is to introduce the concept of MUDA and value added within production. By the end of the film, we expect you to be able to easily identify waste within your organization. By the time the Second World War was over, Toyota faced one of its biggest challenges ever. The main problems were the thousands of cars in stock without a confirmed client. Not happy about this situation, Mr. Ono launched a challenge in order to avoid a similar problem in the future. Only to assemble a car that has had a confirmed order. That was how, during the 50s, Taiichi Ono started just in time at Toyota Motor Company. In order to reach its goal, while keeping its service level and reducing the stock, Mr. Ono had to reduce lead time, or in other words, the time it took to assemble a car through the elimination of all kinds of waste in the value chain. MUDA is a Japanese word that means waste. During this film, we're going to observe some examples of MUDA that take place with production operations. In the Gemba, which is the shop floor where value is added, production activities can be divided into 4 functions: processing, transportation, stagnation, and inspection. Raw materials pass through these 4 stages as they are made into a final product. Within these 4 stages, processing is the only stage that adds value. Transportation and stagnation do not add any value. Instead, these 2 stages result in a deterioration of quality and increasing cost. On top of that, even within the processing activities, there are MUDAs that should be eliminated. During the following images, we are going to learn how to easily identify them. Do you have any idea of how much MUDA there is in your organization? A typical company has a ratio of added value and MUDA that goes from 1 in 200 or 1 in 300 in the best examples. Among the ordinary companies, it could be 1 in 1,000 or even 1 in 10,000. Let's watch the following operations. We can clearly see the part of the process that represents value added and the part that represents waste. Now that you're familiar with the concept of MUDA, let's see how MUDA can be divided into 7 types. MUDA of overproduction, MUDA of waiting, MUDA of transportation, MUDA of overprocessing, MUDA of stock, MUDA of motion, MUDA of producing rejects. Let's start by going to the shop floor and start by analyzing the most important of MUDAs, the MUDA of overproduction, and try to learn how to identify it. MUDA of overproduction takes place every time we produce more than the client requires or even before it's necessary. We can find this MUDA not only in the shape of the final product, but also during the processing stage. Every time the operator is waiting for something, he's not adding any value. That wait can be originated by the lack of material, machine availability, or lack of information. As machines perform their job of processing, machines are adding value. But while the operator is waiting for work to be finished or is monitoring a machine, the operator is not adding any value. To overcome this waste, we should separate the work of the operator from the machine work, introducing value-added activities to the operator while he's waiting. MUDA of waiting can be easily identified and eliminated. In these images, we can observe how MUDA of waiting has been eliminated. The operator moves from one machine to the other, preparing the start of the cycle of one machine while the others are already performing added value activities. The transportation of materials may seem at first sight necessary, but effectively, it doesn't add any type of value to the products since they are just moving from one place to the other. The best practice would be to eliminate transportation completely. We find MUDA of overprocessing when we are doing more work than the final customer requires, not adding any value. In these images, we can observe the operator removing the excess of material through sanding and grinding processes due to the lack of precision in the previous process. In general terms, MUDA of stock creates 2 major problems. The first is the increase in financial and operational costs of the company, such as invested assets, space, the extra resources to move around stock, and the risk of deterioration of the product. On the other hand, the operational problems stay hidden. When you have stock, problems such as defective products, machine availability, and setup times start getting more difficult to identify. It's only when the stock level starts decreasing that such problems stop being hidden and start getting visible. Any movement that the operator has to make in order to execute its task doesn't add any value. We consider MUDA of motion not only to be the movements of the operator, but also poor ergonomic movements, heavy cargo, and poor accessibility to materials and tools. For example, using a single hand to perform a task while the other hand is inactive the whole time. Motion also includes small movements, such as taking apart and assembling it to the product. One of the many kinds of MUDA is the production of defects. When we're producing defects, we're spending resources in an activity that doesn't add value, and we're introducing variability in the process. Production of defects leads us many times to inspection and rework in order to correct the damage caused by defective parts. In this example, we can see a traditional line design producing in batches. The second workstation just found a defective part in the batch delivered by the first workstation. Here, two problems arise. First, should we reject the full batch? Producing in batch leads to batch rejection. Second, where was the defect created? When we use a batch production system, it's very difficult to find the root cause of a defect. Defects should be detected and solved as soon as they are produced, which is impossible with a batch production line. In just-in-time, the traditional layout organized by function is replaced by one-piece flow layout, minimizing the defects, but also helping to identify the root cause of the problem, therefore preventing that defect from being produced again. In just-in-time, a single piece flows from process to process, allowing the assessment of quality during the entire process to identify a problem as soon as it appears. Let's look to automatic machines. Are your machines projected to stop the process as soon as they produce a reject? The majority of the machines don't have a system that allows them to do that. When they start producing a defect, they don't stop. In just-in-time, the machines are projected to stop as soon as an abnormality is detected. This we call jidoka, or automation. It is important to mention that MUDA of overproduction is the worst MUDA of all. Overproduction will originate in all other kinds of MUDA. Overproduction MUDA leads to MUDA of stock, which leads to MUDA of motion, which creates MUDA of transportation, and as a result, creates defects leading to the need of overprocessing to correct them.
So it is hoped that after seeing this film, you begin to wear a new looking glass and identify many things you are unable to see and start eliminating those MUDA. And by eliminating all types of MUDA leads to the introduction of lean production. That is the ultimate goal for all types of companies today.